Yahweh, our Creator, we come before you thanking you for the everlasting covenant you established in faith, a covenant that, well, it defines our past, present, and future. We ask for the clarity and wisdom to truly understand the spiritual laws you have put in place. Teach us, Father, to walk in the same measure of faith and inconvenient obedience that our father Abraham modeled. Let our actions today secure not just our own peace, but also bring honor and blessings to our generations, so that our lineage reflects your enduring glory. Strengthen us to be disciplined, steadfast, and faithful, following your statutes and laws. We close this prayer and discussion in Yeshua's holy name, so be it. Shalom, family, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. We have a powerful set of notes and research today, really pushing us to look at something often overlooked in faith discussions. It's about how your personal obedience, like right now today, is actively creating a kind of spiritual trust fund, a profound inheritance that echoes through the destiny of your children and grandchildren.
It's a fascinating topic, absolutely. And our mission today really is to go beyond just saying, blessings follow obedience. We want to dig into the scriptural architecture here. The evidence suggests this is a very real covenantal transfer mechanism. Your choices, they don't just stop with you. They kick off a specific generational ripple effect. So we're going to map out the evidence for this inheritance building and maybe more importantly, show you how it seems to operate based heavily on the theological sources provided.
Okay, so let's jump right in. Genesis 26. This feels like the cornerstone text for this whole discussion. It's Yahweh speaking to Isaac, reaffirming the covenant, and he makes the cause and effect crystal clear. He says, "And I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven, because," and this is the key part, "because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws."
Right. And what's really striking, especially in verse 5, is the precision of that language. It's not just a vague, Abraham had faith. It details a completeness in his fidelity. These terms, charge, commandments, statutes, laws, the sources point out they aren't just synonyms. They actually describe different layers of commitment.
Okay, let's break that down then. What exactly did Abraham keep? What do those terms mean?
Well, according to the research you shared, obeyed my voice seems to point to those big, dramatic, singular commands, like leaving Ur or the minding of Isaac, those massive faith tests.
The life-altering moments?
Exactly. But then look at the phrase that follows. Kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. This is broader. My charge, the sources suggest, refers to his specific mandates or instructions, maybe things particular to a certain time or situation.
Right.
My commandments, Joel, those are the core moral directives, right? The fundamental ethics.
Okay.
Then statutes, Chicken. These are often the ones that maybe don't have an obvious logical reason to us. Decrees we obey simply because he commanded them. Divine authority.
Right, the ones that have pure obedience.
Precisely. And finally, laws, the Torah, which encompasses the whole body of his teaching and instruction.
So Abraham wasn't just like hitting the highlights. He was walking in total fidelity. Across the board. Morally, ceremonially, direct commands. Everything.
That's the picture painted here.
And the crucial takeaway, which the notes really emphasize, is that the huge generational blessing promised to Isaac and his descendants, multiplying like the stars, was explicitly earned. It was a direct result of Abraham's comprehensive obedience.
Absolutely. And when you really look at Abraham's obedience, it was seriously inconvenient. Think about it. Walking away from everything familiar multiple times. This wasn't just casual agreement. It was tested. It was stretched, sometimes deeply uncomfortable. A total faithfulness. And Yahweh honored that by extending the covenant generationally. That's the mechanism. That's the covenantal ripple.
Okay, so if Abraham's obedience literally bought generational equity, how does that work for us, for the listener right now? When we, as followers of Yahweh, try to walk uprightly today, keeping his laws, his statutes, his commandments, are we actually depositing spiritual wealth into the future accounts of our kids, even the ones not born yet?
The sources strongly suggest, yes, you are actively creating a spiritual trajectory, a protective foundation for them. This generational equity, some sources use the term tzedakah or righteousness. It seems to provide at least three things for the lineage: spiritual authority, a kind of favor in the world, and demonstrable protection. You're essentially clearing a path, a pathway of peace they can walk into, potentially facing less spiritual resistance because of your faithfulness now.
Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting, especially today. Because our culture, it screams independence, doesn't it? You see it everywhere online, trending hashtags, my life, my rules, live your truth, do what feels authentic. That whole mindset seems like the polar opposite of this covenantal idea.
It really does.
This principle says, hey, your life isn't just your own. It's laying groundwork for maybe 1,000 generations. That's a huge clash.
That tension is absolutely real, and it's why grasping this seed principle is so important. We tend to forget, I think, that our actions are seeds, and the fruit, it gets harvested relationally, generationally. So things like rebellion, carelessness, maybe failing to uphold certain covenant aspects. It's not purely personal. It can actually set up a certain spiritual dynamic, a pattern in a lineage.
Okay, but let me push on that a bit, because that could sound almost fatalistic, right?
Yeah.
Like if I'm trying my best, laying down this foundation of faithfulness, but what if my child down the line chooses rebellion? Does my obedience just stop working? What do the sources say about the limits? Is it a guarantee or more like giving them a better starting position?
That's a really important clarification. And yeah, the sources are clear. It's an advantageous starting point, a superior trajectory, but it absolutely does not override individual free will. What the parent's obedience seems to provide is spiritual authority and lessened resistance for the children. It means that if or when that child decides to seek Yahweh, the spiritual atmosphere around them within that lineage is clearer. The path back to favor is, in a sense, already paved by the ancestors' faithfulness. The protection is there. It's active, even if the child takes a detour for a while.
Oh, okay. That makes the daily grind, the small choices, so much more critical then. It's easy to focus on the big, dramatic Abraham moments. But you're saying even the small stuff, the day-to-day choices, are planting these eternal seeds.
Exactly. Think about the parent who's just exhausted after work, but they choose to spend time in prayer or study instead of just, zoning out with entertainment. Or someone upholding the Shabbat, even knowing it might mean missing out on some big social thing or even a work opportunity that falls on a Friday evening.
Real sacrifices.
Right. Every temptation resisted, every commandment kept when it's inconvenient, when nobody's watching. These are powerful teaching moments, even if subconscious. They plant these deep, resilient seeds. They build spiritual armor against the cultural winds we see blowing so strongly today.
And the scale of this promise.
Yeah.
It's just staggering when you really think about it. It goes way beyond anything we can track in a family tree. Deuteronomy 7.9 lays out this massive scope. Yahweh keeps covenant and mercy with those who love him and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations. 1,000.
It almost breaks your brain, doesn't it? 1,000 generations. It means the impact of your righteousness today, your tzedakah, could echo deep into a future you can't even remotely imagine. It's a promise of protection and favor stretching out over millennia. And Psalm 112.2 brings it down to earth a bit, saying, "His seed shall be mighty upon earth. The generation of the upright shall be blessed."
Mighty upon earth.
Yeah, this isn't just about heaven later. It's talking about practical, tangible strength and favor right here in this life for your descendants.
But we absolutely have to include the counterbalance here. For a balanced theological deep dive, we need to acknowledge this ripple works both ways.
Critical point.
Disobedience also has generational effects. We can't just skip over Exodus 20.5, where it talks about the iniquity of the fathers being visited upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me.
Yeah.
That makes walking uprightly today, even in private, not just a nice idea, but actually critical for the people who come after us.
Absolutely. And this is where we need to bring in that balancing principle, which your theological readings highlighted, particularly from Ezekiel 18. While Exodus 20 might describe the consequences of corporate sin, like the spiritual environment becoming toxic, making it easier for later generations to fall into the same traps. Ezekiel 18 brings the individual responsibility sharply into focus. It clarifies the soul who sins is the one responsible. A son won't bear the father's iniquity if the son chooses righteousness.
Okay. So the inherited consequence isn't guilt, but maybe an inherited battleground, like a predisposition or spiritual resistance already in place.
That seems to be the understanding. The generational consequence is that inherited spiritual environment, that pre-existing resistance. But the moment a descendant makes a firm choice for Yahweh, for fidelity, the inherited tzedakah, the righteousness banked by previous obedient generations, can kick in, and the cycle of generational iniquity can be broken by their individual choice and repentance.
Wow.
So, your obedience today, listener, is literally making it easier for your descendants down the line to choose righteousness. You're helping to clear that spiritual battlefield for them.
That completely reframes it. Obedience isn't just passive rule following then. It's an active process. It's like spiritual gardening for your lineage.
Yeah.
Cleaning the soil.
That's a great way to put it.
It shifts the focus. It's less about just avoiding bad things and more about actively daily choosing the covenant, choosing life. So how do we make this practical? How do we actually do this? The sources give a pretty solid list of tangible choices, everyday actions that build this generational equity.
Right? It boils down to those inconvenient choices again, moving from just understanding the theory to taking actions that build that spiritual firewall.
Okay, let's walk through some specifics the notes pull out.
Yeah.
First, honoring the Shabbat. And this isn't just about taking a nap.
No, it's much deeper.
It's setting aside that time as sacred, a physical declaration that Yahweh is sovereign over your time, your work, your money. It pushes back directly against that cultural idol of 247 hustle.
Exactly. Second on the list, walking in genuine humility. This means actively choosing to serve, really listening to others, owning your mistakes instead of defending pride. Humility builds generational favor because, well, pride seems to be at the root of so much spiritual damage and breakdown.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Being disciplined with your time and your finances. This one might surprise some people. The sources directly link financial discipline to tzedakah, to righteousness. When you refuse to be controlled by debt or waste or chasing get-rich-quick schemes, you're building a physical inheritance, sure. But it's also demonstrating a spiritual trustworthiness that Yahweh seems to honor with protection.
Mm-hmm. Stewardship. And crucially important today, speaking life instead of doubt. Our world is just saturated with fear, anxiety, negativity. Choosing deliberately to speak faith, to speak discipline, to speak blessing over your own situation, and especially over your children that actively fights against the spirit of doubt and chaos in your family line. You're literally using your words to enforce the covenant.
Wow.
Yeah.
Powerful. And the last one, especially for parents, correcting children in love, focused on instruction, not just reacting in anger or for convenience. This models Yahweh's own discipline, right? Correction aimed at restoration and long-term good. It establishes a culture of honor and obedience in your home that hopefully they carry into their own homes later.
Exactly. These small, consistent acts of faithfulness, this is how you build that generational protection. You're setting up a kind of spiritual trust fund, one that can't be taxed, stolen, or canceled by whatever the world throws at your descendants. You, the listener, you might not live to see the full harvest, the 1,000 generations. But the foundation that's being laid right now, brick by brick, through these sometimes inconvenient choices.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I really want you, the listener, to just pause for a moment. Internalize this. Ask yourself, what kind of spiritual legacy, what kind of pathway for peace and authority am I actively building with my obedience starting today?
And the central question we've been exploring comes back. When Yahweh looks at your walk, your commitment to his ways, his statutes, his laws, will he be able to say, like he did about Abraham, because you obeyed, I will bless your seed and establish their destiny?
Fidelity to the covenant, especially those parts that rub against the grain of culture, the parts that require real sacrifice. That sets the stage for everyone who follows you. The sources teach this legacy acts like a shield against modern pressures. So here's a final thought to go on. What specific modern tax or cancellation, maybe it's crippling debt cycles, maybe it's chronic fear and anxiety, maybe it's a lack of discipline that holds people back. What negative pattern are you actively protecting your lineage from right now through an inconvenient act of obedience? Think about how your commitment to the Torah, to Yahweh's instructions, is acting as a firewall against the spiritual and societal chaos trying to undermine your family's future.
Stay focused on these powerful generational principles. Walk in complete fidelity as best you can. And know that your faithfulness matters deeply. It's a deposit that will yield an incredible harvest for those who come after you. Shalom.